In this ACT video, we're going to start by looking at angles. This is actually going to be part one of two videos about angles. So we're going to talk about the basics of angles in this video. Here we have an angle, and we call this angle ABC. And those are just 3 points on the angle. So this is actually point A. You might write it like this in your geometry class. Point B and point C. And remember, we just use those dots to represent points. Now, a couple of things. This angle is made up of two rays. We have ray BA and ray BC. And the common endpoint, which in this case is B, is called the vertex. And you can actually just name the angle by the vertex. So we can call this angle B. We could also name this by all three letters, but it would be either angle ABC or angle CBA. Notice when we name the angle by all three letters, the middle letter is the vertex, okay, and that's intentional. And something we'll talk about a little bit later, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it now, the symbol for talking about congruent angles. When angles are congruent, that means they have the same measure. And so when we talk about congruent angles, we use the symbol. Maybe angle B is congruent, there's your congruent symbol, to angle W, okay? But it's that little equal sign right there with that, it's called a tilde. You might be familiar from maybe a Spanish class. That's your symbol for congruent. It just means they have the same measure. All right, we can classify angles. 4 classifications here. We have acute angles, we have obtuse angles, we have right angles, and we have straight angles. And these probably look pretty familiar. Your acute angles measure less than 90 degrees. And one symbol you might also see when talking about angles is this Greek letter theta. And so, for instance, I may refer to that angle right there as theta, and I would say that theta needed to be less than 90 degrees if it's an acute angle. If theta is greater than 90 degrees, but less than 180, so in other words, if the angle measures between 90 and 180, we say it's obtuse. If theta, our angle, measures 90 degrees, then it's a right angle. And over here, your straight angle measures 180 degrees. That's a straight line. Okay, so those should probably look familiar. Classifying angles. And 2 other words we want to learn in this video are complementary angles and supplementary angles. Complementary angles just means that the sum of the measures is 90 degrees. So sum we know means add. So when they're complementary, you can add their measures together and it's 90. So this could be, say, here's a right angle, but then maybe I bisect it. Remember that word just means cut it in half. And if that angle's 45 degrees and that angle's 45 degrees, then those 2 angles are complementary because 45 plus 45 is equal to 90. Now, they don't have to be attached to each other. I could have this angle right here that measures 30 degrees, and then I could have this angle right here, not drawn to scale clearly, which is 60 degrees. And so one way you might see this, let's say I call this angle A, and let's say I call this angle B, we could say that the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B equals 90 degrees. That's a nice equation right there to explain complementary angles. Similarly, supplementary angles means the sum of the measures is 180. So it's the same idea except the 2 angles add up together to 180. So a picture for that might look like this. Here's a straight angle, and we cut that right there. And let's just say that this angle measures 30 degrees over here, and this one measures 150. 30 plus 150 is 180, so those 2 angles are supplementary. Let's take a look at a few examples. First example, one of two supplementary angles measures 36 degrees. What's the measure of the other angle? All right, well, guys, the key word here is supplementary. And so all you have to do is say 180 minus 36. And your other angle measures 144 degrees. Okay. And you can check it by making sure that 144 plus 36 is 180, and we're in good shape. So supplementary angles. All right, one more example. An angle is 16 degrees greater than its complement. Find the measure of each angle. All right, so this one's got a little bit more work compared to the last one. So let's go to this first sentence. It says an angle is 16 degrees greater than its complement. So we don't know what either angle measures. So let's say the complement measures x and the other angle measures 16 degrees greater than x. So we'll say that's x plus 16. And we're talking about complements, so we know to set it equal to 90. So let me just recap how I created this equation here. We don't know what either angle measures, so we're letting one angle measure x. And then it says that the other angle is 16 degrees greater than, so that means bigger. So that's where we got x plus 16. And we'll just solve this equation here. X plus x gives me 2x plus 16 equals 90. And we'll subtract 16 on both sides. 16's cancel. 2x is equal to 90 minus 16 is 74. And we'll divide that by 2. And x is 37. Now, I didn't ask for x, I asked for the measure of each angle. So that's the measure of one angle. Then we have to go back and get the measure of the other angle. So we said the other angle measures x plus 16. So let's do 37 plus 16, and we get 53 degrees. So our two angles are 37 degrees and 53 degrees. And if you want to check that, all you need to do is add those two together and make sure we get 90, because we're talking about complementary angles. And remember, it's the ACT, so I hope you remember your calculator that day. Real quick, easy check. You don't have to show your work on the ACT, so you can just type that in, know you're on the right track, and move along. So, we've classified angles, and we've learned how to name angles, and we also talked about complementary and supplementary angles. We're going to learn more about angles in the second video about angles.